Welcome to Western New York Entrepreneurs Unleashed, the podcast that unveils the remarkable stories of local business owners running 7, 8, and even 9-figure organizations. We dive into the personal journeys that allow these inspiring leaders to live their best lives. Western New York Entrepreneurs Unleashed will offer you invaluable insight, one captivating story at a time. Brought to you by Entrepreneurs Organization of Western New York.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Western New York Entrepreneurs Unleashed. I think today is going to be a lot of fun. So it's really my pleasure to welcome Nicholle Overkamp to the show. She is, and I have to read this, an MBA, a CHFC, a CDFA, and I love this, a certified money bitch. Okay, that's probably the best opening line I've ever read in a bio. I'm not going any further. Tell me more about this, Nicholle. Welcome to the show. And what is it to be a certified money bitch?
So many things, right? It's actually the title of a book we wrote a few years ago, and it really encompasses to us a person who owns their future and is really money wise, but they take action with authority and get after what they want. So it's somebody who doesn't just talk, but they do. And it's really part of our ethos and a lot of what we talk about with our clients, but then to just people in general, in a way to also have fun with a topic that people typically shy away from or isn't really that sexy. So it was our way to invoke a little curiosity and have fun with it.
It's super fun. It's impossible to ignore. and I know it goes with something that you have a deep passion for, which is serving women. So
that's right.
I want to talk a little bit, actually, I would say a lot of bit about that passion. So I know from things in your career, and we'll talk more about the things that you've done a lot to help women.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to me, I assume this has got to be a core value of yours, but what made this so important to you to focus on helping women?
A number of things. But I think it stems from when I was younger and growing up and what I saw my mom go through. And in knowing from a young age, I don't want to be that. And a single mom, 2 kids, and she was constantly making decisions to be with people because she couldn't afford to support herself. So she would have all these partners to help us and as her kids, but she was never really happy. And I knew she was doing it for us. But of course, as a kid, you're super selfish and you just want everything that's best for you. And so there's a lot at the time I didn't understand that I do now looking back. But also, she didn't have the tools. She had no idea how to advocate for herself. She had no idea how to go out there and ask for a raise or negotiate or make more money and didn't have the confidence to work. And so in seeing that, I made this pact with myself that I will never depend on anybody else for money. I will never depend on another organization or individual to be able to get what I want and know that I can feel secure. And so that's really, I think, where it started. And then what really drove the passion was when I started working in the industry, I was one of the only women, all men. And what I saw was extraordinary. And I'm a slow learner. So it took me a while to even understand that in part of what I saw was just flat out wrong. And for any of you who have ever watched that movie, The Wolf on Wall Street, I don't know, David, if you're familiar with it.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, that was my experience when I first started as an advisor and a lot of what I saw, and then how I saw advisors treat women and how I saw the conversation in partnerships and how only the man was spoken to and not his wife. And then I also dealt with quite a lot as well that we don't need to get into, but it was just brutal. And I said to myself, I've got to do better. Are we allowed to swear?
You can, I will tell anyone.
And is it allowed? It was just bullshit, right? And so it lit the fire after a litany of things happening to say, you know what? I really want to build an organization where we're providing education, we're doing planning, but also cultivating an environment where you can come, we're going to listen to you and you can be vulnerable, right? We're not going to sell a product, but we're going to solve a problem and we're going to help you get results. And So much of the finance industry is ego. It is jargon. It's really talking in terms that they hope you don't understand a lot of the time. And we don't give money enough credit as to how vulnerable it is. And so it was really in the emotions that it invokes and how many different things it's tied to. And that's really where we came about. And then so much of what we've done and how we've seen the reaction and the response to that helped fuel the fire to really keep going left when the industry was going right and just creating that space.
So that's fantastic. I love that, being driven from what you observed as a kid and then having that really shape who you became as a professional, as an entrepreneur. The question I have is the leap from, okay, I'm working for a firm, probably making decent money. I'm safe and secure financially. And I've got this real core passion not to be dependent on anybody else, but at the same time, I'm going to take this leap of faith and jump in and become an entrepreneur, which some people think is, yeah, that's the only way to get control. And a lot of people think of, boy, that's risky and scary. What made you willing to take that leap?
Dave, I wish I had a great, brilliant response for you. But the truth is, I was 25 years old. I didn't have a lot of, mental maturity. I had this experience where I had a falling out with my manager at the time. I didn't like what I saw. It didn't align with my core values. And I essentially said, see you later. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Clue. And when I said that, he said, let me walk you out. You can come back the next day and get all of your client files. And of course, I didn't know what that meant. That meant you're never coming back and we're calling all of your clients. So I went through this phase actually of thinking I wasn't good enough and that I really wasn't worth much of anything at all. And maybe I wasn't going to stay in the industry. I really went through this woe is me martyr situation for probably a few weeks in navigating what I wanted to do, interviewing at all of these places. Nothing really felt like home. And then I had a client call, and that conversation changed the rest of my life. And what she had said to me, and you're the only person I worked with that I felt like I could actually talk to you about what I wanted and not be judged. And you helped me with so much. Please don't quit. I need you. And it was all I needed to hear. It wasn't anything remarkable or significant, but it was just that one thing that I needed to hang on and sink my teeth into. And so that's what I did. And I decided, all right, let's do it. And that's where Wilcox Financial Group started. And I had no idea what it meant to be an entrepreneur. No clue. And I knew I was good at my craft. And then the rest I learned through failing, to be quite honest. I think, and a lot of us can relate to that, I'm sure, as entrepreneurs, is that you just have this vision and this passion and you figure it out along the way. It's not always beautiful and linear, right?
No, I love that story. And it's probably different than a lot of entrepreneurs because you had a trigger moment that, okay, all of a sudden, I can't work where I'm working and what am I going to do? It wasn't I took time, put together a business plan, thought through everything, and here's what's going to come next. No, I have to reinvent myself. But I think that happens to a lot of people looking to start businesses. Is one of two things. You have such a passion for something that you have to go do it because you can do it better. And you clearly had that. And then you have something that gives you enough inspiration to take the leap. I don't wish on anybody the trigger event of, hey, you're unemployed, go figure it out. But I think all of us have something that's driving us to take that first step. And the other thing that you said that I want to pull out of there was you didn't know what you were doing. And it's so funny. Like I wrote a blog post a week or two ago, and I was saying, if I knew when I started what I know now, I probably would have been too scared to start. And the reality is, you said it, you figure it out as you go. And most things that you're learning, it's not the end of the world. They're little mistakes. And if you keep failing forward, you build a successful company. So I'd love to have you tell everybody a little bit about the companies you've built and some things that you're doing now.
Sure. Yeah. And just to speak to that, it took me a long time to actually realize that failing was a gift, to be able to fail forward and just capitalize on that and know that you can't have success without it. And yeah, if I knew what I was getting into, I would have never done it. When I got into the bank and said,
but for everybody listening, don't let that scare you off because we're really happy we made the leap. We just, looking backwards, you're like, how did I do that?
And truly, I'd be a terrible employee. And so it's really been a matter of the conviction and knowing exactly what I wanted to accomplish and not allowing a no or a negative comment or anything to stand in my way. And it really has been quite the journey. And I think though, if there's anything I've done, it's been surrounding myself with the right people. I'm good at knowing what I'm not good at and making sure that who I hire has those attributes that I don't, has the skill sets that I don't. And so before I could even really pay myself, I hired someone and she's my COO now. Actually, I hired Sarah it just as an assistant because I knew I was terrible with organization and paperwork. But I think it's knowing what you're gifted at in your zone of genius, and then as quickly as you possibly can, hire somebody who can handle all of the rest so that you can really sink your teeth into traction and momentum and serve whoever your audience is best, right? And I think that's what we really did through, of course, a lot of trial and error, and then listening to our ideal client and what they needed and what they wanted and building that for them was a lot of what we did in the early years. And I didn't have a mentor or a coach for a long time. And I wish I did because I would have been so much further ahead. It would have been so much, probably a lot less painful. I think I was very stubborn and I was terrified to let anybody think I was incompetent or didn't know what I was doing.
100%.
And I was just like hell bent on figuring it out myself. I had such a chip on my shoulder. And I say this all the time. I so wish I knew about EO a long time ago. And I'm going on to my second year now. And man, I wish I'd found this group so many years ago, because the amount that it has helped me with even to now where I am is incredible. And so it's organizations like this that help move the needle. And what's so ironic about it is when you join them, you have no idea how they're going to help move the needle, but somehow they just do, right? And having that support system has been so powerful.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I know you're doing financial advising and you're doing coaching. Can you talk to me about those two services?
Sure. So Wilcox Financial Group is our financial planning firm, the OG, the first company that I started back in 2012, where we are doing financial planning, asset management, insurance. And then along the way, what I started to feel were these gaps. And there were a lot of women that we were working with who financial planning felt like overkill. It was too much and they really needed the coaching. They needed to learn the mindset around money, how to handle it and dealing with some of those things and just figuring out the basic systems and education around money. And so we built out money coaching programs to help with the education, the accountability and the mindset so that they had that root or base camp rather, right, of everything that you need so that when you invest in financial planning, you can actually gain traction and get the results. I didn't like that I was seeing people where they were essentially jumping in both feet, but didn't have the basics to complete. So we started that. And then I created a ton of financial wellness programs and online courses and really dug into the education piece and said, hey, you know what, how can we not only do this better, but build out education in a way where people can digest it and it's relatable and it's just done in a way where it's fun. I didn't want to just give facts and information, but let's tell a story and make it so that people want it. Because again, it's so important and it's so critical, but who wants to do financial planning? Let's face it, right? Even if you've got a ton of money, it's just not on the top of your to-do list. And so that's what we did. And then from there, that's where we wrote our book, Money Bitch. And really, it's just to cast a wider net and say, hey, not everybody's going to want to work with us. But if we can make it so that we're getting information into the hands of more women so that they can take control of their financial future, maybe that will help also move the needle on the statistics that we keep reading time and time again, right? Have been taking so long to change. And I also built out business coaching programs as well for female founders where it's so much of everything I wish I had. The support, the accountability, the systems, and the numbers part. Again, it's hard I think, for a lot of us to face the numbers in business, because if we look at it, that means it's real. And what if we don't like it? Or how can we increase profits without burning ourselves out? And really looking at all that stuff. So that's where Powerhouse Money Coaching came into play a little bit later. And now those companies are core brand.
Oh, that's fantastic. And one of the things that when you were talking, I was thinking not just about women, but I was thinking about kids, and money's a taboo. Like, we're not supposed to talk about it. You don't talk about what you make. You don't talk about how you invest. And then, as you said, then the people you go to for advice, they speak their own language and they don't want you to know how it works. So I really like that you're helping close those barriers for women. It seems like such a massive need for everybody that's starting their careers and in life. In terms of your entrepreneurial journey, I want to change direction for a second. Talk about some of the challenges you faced, because you knew what you were doing. You were really good at what you were doing. You knew what you weren't good at doing. You hired someone to help, but everybody faces challenges growing their business. And what were a couple of those milestone moments that now you can look back and say, those were great learning experiences?
Yeah. Wow. Shoot, where to begin? There's been so many. I think the biggest challenge that I had, honestly, it was the refusal to ask for help. I was terrified of somebody thinking that I wasn't competent. And I think for so long, because I was told I was, that added to that fear. And so it took me years before I hired a business coach and I tried to seek a mentor. And so that really stunted my growth early on a tremendous amount. And so that was my first, I think, biggest lesson in looking back, is I wish I would have done that sooner. And in part of it, I didn't invest in myself, didn't think I was worth that investment. And even though I had this conviction, at the same token, which is so strange, I didn't want to spend that money on my own coaching. And so that was the one early on mistake that I made. And sometimes too, I think I struggled a lot with confidence in general and pricing, and really playing around with how to do this differently in a way that isn't standard. It's not done traditionally the way that we do things in the industry. And so I really had to navigate that. And it took a long time to have the confidence in the structure and in how to position that and get better at sales, actually. I think that was another thing too, that a lesson that I had to learn. And then the ability to delegate. That was another lesson I had. I'm a micromanager and a control freak, and I had to learn the difference between managing and leading and doing a better job of communication. That was another big struggle for me. I only wanted to talk about the things when they were wrong, because I don't need to hear that I'm doing a good job, or I don't need to hear that things are going well. So I always just march on, move forward, full steam ahead. But when something goes wrong, I want to fix it right away. I want to talk about it. And that's what I want to spend time on. And so what I learned was in my team is that the only things I brought up to them were all the things going bad, but I never told them that they were doing a great job, because to me, they should know they're crushing it, right? Why would I need to read? That's just a waste of time. And so I learned that, number one, that's crappy leadership. I learned that I have to take time to celebrate the team and communicate their wins as much as I'm communicating the things that we have to improve on. And that was another thing along the way that I just had to learn, that because I'm a certain way, it doesn't mean everybody else is. And it doesn't mean that the team operates the way that I do. And they actually all operate very differently than I do. And just learning their love language and incorporating that so that we could have a really healthy culture.
That's fantastic. Wow, there's so many good pieces of advice in there. I think a lot of business owners, especially when they're starting out, have a bit of the imposter syndrome, and that not wanting to admit to someone you don't know what you're talking about is really hard to do. And to bring in an outside expert or a board of advisors or a coach can be scary, because they're going to hold up the mirror and let you see everything that you don't know. And it isn't until you get enough maturity in running your own company, you're just like, that's actually really beneficial to know what I don't know. It makes me a better leader. I love that you said, because I've just been reading a book talking about how to be happier in life, where you said you have to remember to tell your team, hey, you did a great job. Let's celebrate the successes. And that seems like so obvious. But the reality is, when you're going 1,000 miles an hour as a leader and your job is chief problem solver, right, do is find problems and you solve them and move on to the next one. And other people feel like you don't care. So you've had some incredibly valuable lessons. Outside of work, I don't know how you find the time, but you also serve on the board for EO. You're our incoming co-president. You're on the board for an organization called Mezzo Inc., and you're on the board for the Girl Scouts of Western New York. So
That's right.
how all these things align with your purpose, and why do you find time to do it all?
Oh, I will say I don't have children. I always joke like the business is my baby and everything else is just fun. So when my friends are like buzzing around to baseball games, going to a board meeting, but no, for me, it really is so much fun. And those organizations are so much of who I am as well, right? So the Girl Scouts, even though I don't have children, the entire mission of the Girl Scouts is to build strong leaders. And so it's all about teaching these girls real life skills, how to be entrepreneurs, how to manage money, how to be good leaders and communicate and all the badges that they earn. And if we want to have more women with more wealth and retaining it, it starts with the girls and building their confidence and knowing what they're capable of achieving. And the Girl Scouts has this entire STEM program as well, which is really cool. And it is a way different Girl Scouts than it was when I was a Girl Scout. How it's evolved is incredible. And so that's why I'm heavily involved in that. And Mezzo Allies is a new organization, new nonprofit that was formed actually in 2023 by Kate Gannon. I actually helped her start it. She's just this incredible force. She is a survivor of family-based sex trafficking. And so she started a podcast, The Ugly Truth About the Girl Next Door, out of desperation and wanting to raise awareness. But what that did is it helped her realize, oh my God, I'm not the only one. I need to do better. And if not, how does that go? Who's going to do it? Essentially, she said, I'm the person to solve this problem because nobody else is doing it. So there she is. And Mezzo is all about helping survivors of family-based trafficking. There isn't a solution for that. There isn't a solution to help these women. It's sad. And it's something that I think we all sweep under the rug to some degree. It's a heavy topic. We don't want to hear it, but we need to hear it so that we can do better. And so, and again, that is all about empowering women to help other women who aren't in the position to help themselves, but then the education in the community and then making sure that these survivors have a future and they know that they're worth everything in the world. And so that's why I'm involved in that. And then I think that's it, right? Just those two and then EO.
Well, then now your new role as president of New York.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited for that one. I have a lot to learn. It's funny. I feel like I'm an EO newbie and I have EO clueless sometimes, but I'm also obsessed with the organization. So it's going to be a fun journey.
It should be. We're run out of time here. A couple of things I want to ask about. So you talked about learning and having a passion for learning. And in your bio, it talked about your being both a fitness enthusiast and Audible obsessed. I really smell the Audible obsessed. We have a debate in my household whether or not listening to Audible counts as reading, but we won't go down that path right now. But I want to ask, how do your interests outside of work help you be a successful entrepreneur?
It's funny. They actually fuel me and I can't have one without the other. And I talk about this all the time is that believe success is a completely holistic thing. And I'm Audible obsessed because if I didn't listen to something every single day to keep my frequency high and perspective in check and so that I'm always learning, I wouldn't be as good as I am for my clients. And so it really helps my mental health quite a lot. And so I do go through 2 to 3 books a month and they're always nonfiction books. They are about self-help, self-development, business development, and I eat up biographies. I love hearing other people's stories, and it really helps with business in these weird ways. And then with fitness, if I'm not working out, you don't want to know me. Like that is my stress release. It's where I get all of my creative ideas. I wrote the entire book, Money Bitch, while walking. It's really, I do so much dictation actually. And so I'm not sure what side of the camp you're on with Audible being reading or not. But for me, it's like everything is listening and talking, right? There's no physical reading or writing. It's very difficult for me to sit down and read. I'm grateful for Audible. So for me, it's real, but I understand and appreciate the value of reading a physical book as well.
That's great. So with all the things you have going on, you got Wilcox Financial, you got the Powerhouse Money Coaching, you got the Eventbrite Summit, you got your boards. For Nicolle, what's the biggest challenge that you're trying to deal with right now?
Being a good wife.
Interesting.
Being a good wife. Yeah.
Because of all the commitments you have, or?
Yeah. And I went through like these years of yeses and nos and my year of hell yes only. And everything that I'm doing, I'm loving and it's aligned, but it's a lot. It's a full schedule. And I have the habit of going all in and getting sucked into this vortex and forgetting that anything else is existing around me. And I'm really trying to practice this year. And my word of the year is intention, and to be more present with the people I love and especially my husband, because I love him to pieces, but he doesn't get it all the time. And you're fortunate in the sense that both you and your wife are in it together and you understand what that is.
Sometimes we still don't get it. So I understand.
Okay, good. So maybe, but yeah, I need to be a better wife. I want to be more available to him and present. And so I'm trying to make sure that we have more date nights and trips planned together where I'm actually on that trip, like present mentally on that trip and not working the whole time and that kind of thing. So that is one thing I am definitely struggling with. I know I could do better. He deserves better. And that's what I'm working on right now.
So I like your word of the year, that intention, you say intentionality, but the idea is that you're really conscious about how you're spending your time. It's something personally I've been working with. I had the opportunity a few years ago through Brian Bro, who's a member of the EO chapter, and they do a couples retreat, which I was given as a anniversary gift, and I thought would be the worst thing in the world. Turns out it was awesome. And I got to hear a speaker by the name of Warren Rustan, who talks about living with intent and just how powerful it is. And I've been struggling with the same thing for several years. And I will say this year, I'm probably doing a better job. And what made the difference for me is actually something Brian taught. And he taught the power of journaling. And I have notebooks everywhere and I write stuff, but I wasn't really journaling. And then at our leadership retreat, we all got handed this book on how to be happier. And one of the things in there was daily gratitude. And said, just get up and before your feet touch the floor, before you reach for your phone, reach for a notepad and write down 3 things from the day before that you're grateful for. So that has been a powerful habit. I've been doing it now for just about 2 months. And it forces you to really think about all the good things in your day instead of starting a new day thinking about the fires you're about to have to fight.
Yeah.
But I started right after that saying, what are 1 to 3 things that are my intent for today? And that's really helped me. And then sometimes it is put a trip in the calendar, talk to Vicky about the next vacation, call the kids. So it's the things that are the easiest to push by the wayside because you expect they're going to happen. Just like saying thank you to your employees for doing a great job. You just expect I'll get to it. And the firefighting sometimes prevents you from getting to those intents. So for me, I totally agree. That's sort of what I've been trying 4 years. And I feel like I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. But that journaling and the being really conscious about it is making a big impact. All right.
I love that.
My last question for you. So this show is designed for entrepreneurs in Western New York. Hopefully we have a lot of aspiring female entrepreneurs who are going to listen in and they need some advice. So Nicolle, what parting words of wisdom, what advice can you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, male or female, who may be facing challenges in either starting or growing a business?
I think my piece of advice would be to remember that you're worth the effort. And as quickly as you notice a problem, know that it's figure outable and seek the person who can help you with it so that you can continue to move forward.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. If people want to check out Wilcox Financial, they want to learn more about you, what's the best way people can follow along with Nicolle?
I would say either our website, wilcoxfinancialgroup.com, or Instagram. We love to connect with everybody there. And that handle is Powerhouse Money.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And thanks for being part of this episode of the Western New York Entrepreneurs Unleashed podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Western New York Entrepreneurs Unleashed, and another inspiring story from a local business leader who scaled their company. If you are ready to take your business to new heights and eager to embrace transformative growth, then don't miss our future episodes. Subscribe to this podcast today and be part of our community of leaders, builders, and change makers. Together, we're committed to moving the world forward by unlocking the full potential of entrepreneurs, one success story at a time. Brought to you by Entrepreneurs Organization of Western New York,